All right, guys, welcome back to our CLC podcast where we jump into the scripture for the week we're going to be in. And really, we just kind of make stuff up as we go.
Making it up.
As you're going to really hear this week, because in the last 10 minutes, we basically called an audible.
Changed everything.
So what did we change? This was not on the schedule as far as what we were going to track through.
We're heading into our last 2 weeks, and I think the original thought was, let's close down the time in the wilderness, and two things we felt we needed to do was bring Joshua online, because he's going to be the future.
Yep.
And then that would have been this week. And then in the final week, Moses and Deuteronomy kind of bringing it all together with the Shema, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, kind of bring that story together. But after my Bible study this morning, the guys are like, how could you skip Balaam and the talking donkey?
Yeah.
And then we started reading and talking about it. I came in here and you had a lot of heat about it.
Well, I was reading on because we were jumping from 21 to 27, 8.
Yeah.
Something like that, to kind of that introduction to Joshua. And there was probably 3 chapters there. I'm like, man, this stuff is awesome.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want a preacher to talk about a talking donkey?
Yes, let's go.
The two seem to be so well connected.
Absolutely. What's that about?
Yeah. So, all right, let's just go, man. You ready?
We're
gonna rip this Band-Aid off.
This in real time. This is what
probably
going
to be the best podcast ever.
Absolutely.
In history.
Yeah.
So Israel, after the old serpent in the wilderness, they start to win some battles. They start to kick some butt.
Kind of a turning point, maybe, for them, for this generation.
You feel like this generation is moving, they're believing, they're starting to win some battles. And then you get to this chapter 22, and the writer of Numbers, who many credit Moses, stops and gives us the perspective outside of the Israelites. So let's drop into this story about Balak, and these names are subjective, you can say them however you want to, but Balak and Balaam. But Balak is the king of the Moabites, and he sees the Israelites coming, and he's freaking out.
Because there were a couple million.
Yeah, there's a couple million people. Imagine you live in a desert, and your nation, and they're the Moabites, so there's already history going on with them. But all of a sudden, these 2 million people are coming your direction, and they've already had some victories. You're thinking, man, I gotta deal with this problem.
Right, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah. So what does he do?
Let's hire a mercenary prophet sorcerer guy.
Yeah, there's this dude Balaam who's well known. He's not a prophet of the Lord, but he's well known that if you need to get someone cursed, you go pay that guy and he does whatever sacrifice thing he's going to do, and then he curses those people, and apparently he was pretty good at it.
Yeah, so like a pagan prophet, you might say.
Pagan prophet, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So outside of the Lord, but pretty interesting. We see
what we're about to run into.
What we're about to see.
Yeah. So Balak decides, I'm going to send that guy a bunch of money, get him to curse these people that are coming out of Egypt, and just be done with it. So he sends an entourage to go meet with Balak, and as they meet him, they stay the night, and God shows up and meets Balak in the middle of the night and says, nope, you're not going to curse what I've blessed. So the next day, Balak gets up and says to the people that are there, take your money.
Balaam.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Balaam. Balaam says, take your money, go back. I ain't doing this.
Right.
Yeah. So you have a false prophet who hears from the Lord.
Who is, yeah.
And he actually speaks the word of the Lord. So he's not an Israelite prophet. He's a false prophet, but he knows better than to mess with what's going on.
Yeah, clearly we don't know what he knows about the Lord, but he is not defiant to him. He says straight away, he's like, God tells him don't go, and he's like, hey, y'all can give me all the money in the world. I'm not going.
I'm doing it. And they try. So Balak sends back more money, more distinguished people, and God shows up again and says, all right, go ahead. Go do this. This is interesting. Because God says, yeah, go ahead and go with him. Don't curse him, but he says go with him.
Yeah.
And so
he gets mad for him going.
Yeah, the next day he gets on a donkey and God's mad about it. This is where you get the story of the talking donkey. And if you don't know the story we're talking about, you got to show up because we're going to have fun with this one.
Yep. But the second half of 22.
Yeah, second half of 22. The donkey sees the angel of the Lord is standing in the middle of the road. So the donkey's going left and right and into a field. And Balaam does not see the angel of the Lord. And so he's whipping this donkey until finally the donkey turns around and says, dude, what have I ever done?
Yeah.
Could you? A lot of talking donkeys in this world.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, we just maybe don't hear them this
Maybe
clearly.
the message that God can speak even through a talking donkey.
That's right.
But it does say in 28, the Lord gave the donkey the ability to speak. So.
Perfect.
Yes.
And he does. He does multiple times until finally God reveals himself to Balaam and says, "You're lucky that you had this donkey.
Yeah.
Or else you'd be dead.
You would have been.
But I would." It's funny because he says, "But I would have saved the donkey."
Just so you know.
Just so you know, the donkey took precedence over you.
Uh-huh.
So do what you want to with that. But he still goes. And go ahead. You got something?
Well, I just want to. Okay, so just kind of taking a step back here.
All right. I love this story.
Let's say I'm still learning faith. I'm navigating this. I'm not sure what I believe. Talking donkey.
Talking donkey.
What should I do with that?
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your live reaction on that.
That's one of those things that you just take it and hold on to it. I'm sure in our time as we study and we get ready for this, we're going to hear from multiple people who have lots of thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, God wanted to deliver a message, and maybe rather than speak through the angel of the Lord that's there, maybe Balaam would have listened to the donkey a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have also been that he's not a prophet of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, there's got to be some sort of interplay there. So if you're not a believer and you hear this story and you're like, that's just a bunch of hooey,
mm-hmm.
I promise there's more to it. I don't know if that's going to be the main focus of the story, but
sure.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
You got a thought on that, or you're just trying to have fun with the podcast?
I don't have a great thought.
You cannot make it up though. Talking donkeys.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a perfect analogy for people running their mouth.
Yeah, it is. I think that's kind of where I've landed on some of that stuff, is whether it's literal or not, or whether we're supposed to really be able to hold that or not. The message remains of what it means.
Yeah. Even like for all time and sake, how a donkey has been viewed as stubborn, not maybe the wisest of all the animals.
Right.
And that's the one that sees, and that's the one that knows. And, there has to be, I'll just put it out there.
I guarantee there's somebody out there that's like, hey, if God can use a donkey, he can use me.
You're not wrong.
Somebody said
that's right.
that. Yeah.
So Balaam continues on.
Yep.
He gets up with the king, and the king's like, let's go. Let's curse these people. So he sets up all of these sacrifices. And Balaam gets up there and he delivers, I think it's at 4 oracles. 1, 2, 3, 4 oracles.
So what do you mean by oracle?
I would say it would be considered a prophecy if it was prophet of the Lord.
Right.
But because it's a false prophet or someone else, it's an oracle, although it's still a prophecy because these things come true.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's why they call it an oracle. I would think that maybe I need to back up. This is one of those pericopes where folks added these titles afterwards,
right.
And they chose to call it an oracle. And my guess would be that they called it an oracle because it's from Balaam and not from a recognized prophet of the Lord.
Right.
So he gets up there, and Balak is expecting him to curse the Lord.
Mm-hmm. That's what
has
he's paying
the sacrifice.
For.
What he's paying for. He's paying good money for this. And the first oracle, if you condense it down, basically Balaam comes out and says, yep, can't curse those who God hasn't cursed. And it's a lot. There's a way more that goes to it, but he says you can't curse those who God has cursed. God's going to protect his people. It's all going to be good.
Wouldn't you love to see the look on Balak's face? He's expecting a curse here.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, his line is, what have you done to me? I brought you out here to curse him. What? So anyway, so he's like,
yeah.
Wait, what? No, that's not what I paid for.
Right. But I love Balaam's reply. I will speak only the message the Lord puts in my mouth.
Yeah. But get back in there and try it again. And then you get the second oracle. This time it's not, I can't curse what God has blessed. Now it's, he promised to do it. He's going to do it. So, that's just what God's going to do. A God who brings them out of Egypt. That's so good luck. He kind of lays all of that out. The oracle goes through, and we'll cover some of this on Sunday. But once again, Balak did not get what he paid for.
No. Interesting, too, that they go up. I'm noticing this more after our Habakkuk series, but all the things that happen up on mountaintops when they go up to a high place.
Good point.
And we'll see that with the passing of the torch here in a week. But that second time he's like, yeah, I don't know what that was about. Let's go to a different place. Let's go to a different mountain.
Yeah.
Different section.
Don't like this place.
Yeah.
Wrong place. This is not the connection.
Just that human effort of trying to change what God has already put in place.
And maybe a different God on a different mountain.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was how their minds worked
That's
at the
true.
time. So let's go try somewhere else.
Right.
The third oracle is it's way more. There's going to be huge encampments. He talks about how prolific that Israel's going to be. God brought him out of Egypt. They're going to devour nations. They're going to break bones. They're going to strike with arrows. He's crouched to lay down like a lion. He goes through all of this to even paint a bigger picture of the impact that Israel's going to have as they're going forward. So that's a worse mountain to be on. Right, that prophecy, like choose your mountain, choose your prophecy kind of thing.
Right.
And then it goes on. Now Balak's done. His anger, he's upset. He's really ticked off about all of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love the how 24 begins. I've got NLT translation, so it might be a little bit different, but Balaam realized the Lord was determined to bless Israel. He did not resort to divination as before. He's turned, looked out to the wilderness. He saw the people of Israel, tribe by tribe. The Spirit of God came upon him, and that's the message he delivered. So you do see that God's Spirit is using a guy who was not of the Lord, but God is gonna use him for his purposes, and he did.
Israel hangs on these things. Like, I mean, they used it as and I think to take a half a step out, remember, this is what's going on in the nations as Israel's marching.
Mm-hmm.
So the nations are freaking out. Parallel this with what the Israelites were feeling when they decided not to go in the promised land. And I imagine that's probably how the nations felt when they saw that 2 million people coming at them, but they didn't have the faith to believe. Now they've got a snapshot, or we're getting to hear the story on the other side, and man, people are freaking out.
Yeah. I wonder too if there was an encouragement to Israel that these things are happening, like you're saying, with other nations. It's not just, it's one thing to be amongst your people, to be encouraging one another, but when you see external forces come into play, external people that are recognizing what's happening among you, it kind of gives you another boost of confidence, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Let's circle back around. Let's get the last part in, and then let's kind of say, well, so what? Right? What do you do with all this?
Yeah.
There's a fourth oracle. Balak decides, I'm done with you. I'm not paying you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not what we discussed, so you'll be gone with you. Then Balaam delivers a fourth oracle. And it's in this fourth oracle where there's this really neat foreshadowing in chapter 24, verse 17, where he talks about a star shall come out of Jacob, or a star shall come out of the east, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, which is the foreshadowing and one of the prophecies or oracles about Jesus and what God is going to do in the future. So now you've gone to the next point, and you have outside nations seeing and recognizing the plan of God for the future and what's ahead. So Balak got way more than what he paid for, or way less than what he paid for, depending on how you're looking at that. So the prophecy goes on to really kind of seal the deal and put it all together.
Yeah. And that's it for Balaam. He kind of leaves, and that's it. That's what we get.
So what do you do with that, Jeff?
God can use even a donkey.
Yep. In my mind, I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. I do. You kind of hinted out around about it. I wonder if we knew some of the battles that we fight, some of the things that we worry about. You never know what's in the mind of someone else, the struggles of someone else. Maybe we don't think in terms of battle or fighting someone, but the people that we have conflict with, the internal struggles that they're dealing with, how hurt and broken that they might be. We get ourselves all worked up and we get angry about something, but maybe we could start to recognize God at work in folks that aren't believers.
Yeah.
This is clearly God clearing the path for the kingdom to, let's just use those terms, for the kingdom to take ground, for God to move his people forward. It's God preparing the way. It just happened to be by sword and by might in these chapters. But in our world, Maybe the sword is the sword of, not maybe, it is the sword of the Spirit, preparing people to receive the kingdom, preparing people's spiritual flesh to die, and for God to grow kingdom in their hearts. That's a big jump, but
yeah. And two, I think so many of us discount ourselves because we don't feel worthy. We don't feel like we're at the place where we should be or want to be. And we discount what God can do through us.
Yeah.
And you see that God can do anything through anyone. And we shouldn't discount ourselves on the sideline because of what we feel like we're lacking, when the Spirit of God is there to strengthen us to do the things, to take the message to people, and to be light, to bring that koinonia to wherever we go.
Yeah, Balaam stands as a bizarre character. He's not a prophet, so and Israelite text does not hold him as a prophet, but they do hold the oracles. So, it'd be nice to say, hey, even unbelievers can, and they can. I think God speaks. God's present. God is always reaching, always chasing, always pursuing.
Yeah.
But I do think you can say, as a believer, think of the access you have when, in this instance, God is using someone else. And maybe that's not the message. Maybe the message is God's going to move and he's going to do whatever he needs to do, even if he has to use a donkey or a false prophet or a king that totally misses the point.
I think there is that. Yeah, if you feel like you've missed the way or missed your chance or whatever, I think don't count God out for what he wants to do in that next season of life.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to talk about all this.
Can't wait to hear the emails you'll get.
Yeah, the emails, the conversations, the back chatter, talking donkeys, preachers.
Yeah.
All that comes together. And don't dare read on to chapter 25. That's one of those PG-13 rated R stories.
You want to do that one next week?
Nope.
Oh.
We're not going to do that next week, but but the fact that I said it, there'll be folks that go read it to see. And some people believe that this was the Moabites' response. They couldn't beat them on the battlefield, so they sent in the ladies.
They resorted to...
They sent in the ladies, and things went south with Israel because of the ladies.
Sure.
And God dealt with that mess in a very spectacular way.
Yeah. You read that on your own. We're not teaching that.
I'm not talking about that in a podcast.
But next week, we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to pass the torch.
Yep.
We're not.
We're not going to pass the torch, and we're going to get on to Moses' last
days,
parting words about obedience.
Cool. We'll tune in this week, see what we came up with.
Awesome. That was fun.